Welcome to my videos. AZ-500, Microsoft Azure Security Technologies. Latest exam questions and answers Set 1. Topic 1 Case Study. Case studies are not timed separately. You can use as much exam time as you would like to complete each case. However, there may be additional case studies and sections on this exam. You must manage your time to ensure that you are able to complete all questions included on this exam in the time provided. To answer the questions included in a case study, you will need to reference information that is provided in the case study. Case studies might contain exhibits and other resources that provide more information about the scenario that is described in the case study. Each question is independent of the other question on this case study. At the end of this case study, a review screen will appear. This screen allows you to review your answers and to make changes before you move to the next sections of the exam. After you begin a new section, you cannot return to this section. To start the case study. To display the first question on this case study, click the Next button. Use the buttons in the left pane to explore the content of the case study before you answer the questions. Clicking these buttons displays information such as business requirements, existing environment, and problem statements. If the case study has an All Information tab, note that the information displayed is identical to the information displayed on the subsequent tabs. When you are ready to answer a question, click the Question button to return to the question. Overview. Litware Incorporated is a digital media company that has 500 employees in the Chicago area and 20 employees in the San Francisco area. Existing environment. Litware has an Azure subscription named Sub1 that has a subscription ID of 43894A4317C24838CFC3540C2653EF4. Sub1 is associated to an Azure Active Directory, Azure AD, tenant named litwareinc.com. The tenant contains the user objects and the device objects of all the Litware employees and their devices. Each user is assigned an Azure AD Premium P2 license. Azure AD Privileged Identity Management, PIM, is activated. The tenant contains the groups shown in the following table. The Azure subscription contains the objects shown in the following table. Azure Security Center is set to the free tier. Planned changes. Litware plans to deploy the Azure resources shown in the following table. Litware identifies the following identity and access requirements. All San Francisco users and their devices must be members of Group 1. The members of Group 2 must be assigned the contributor role to Resource Group 2 by using a permanent eligible assignment. Users must be prevented from registering applications in Azure AD and from consenting to applications that access company information on the user's behalf. Platform protection requirements. Litware identifies the following platform protection requirements. Microsoft anti-malware must be installed on the virtual machines in Resource Group 1. The members of Group 2 must be assigned the Azure Kubernetes Service Cluster admin role. Azure AD users must be to authenticate to AKS1 by using their Azure AD credentials. Following the implementation of the plan changes, the IT team must be able to connect to VM0 by using JIT VM access. A new custom RBAC role named Role 1 must be used to delegate the administration of the managed disks in Resource Group 1. Role 1 must be available only for Resource Group 1. Security operations requirements. Litware must be able to customize the operating system security configurations in Azure Security Center. You need to configure SQLDB1 to meet the data and application requirements. Which 3 actions should you recommend be performed in sequence? To answer, move the appropriate actions from the list of actions to the answer area and arrange them in the correct order. Correct sequence. Connect to SQLDB1 by using Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, SSMS. In SQLDB1, create contained database users. In Azure AD, create a system-assigned managed identity. You need to deploy AKS1 to meet the platform protection requirements. Which 4 actions should you perform in sequence? To answer, move the appropriate actions from the list of actions to the answer area and arrange them in the correct order. Note, more than one order of answer choices is correct. You will receive credit for any of the correct orders you select. Correct sequence. Create a server application. Create a client application. Deploy an AKS cluster. Create an RBAC binding. You need to deploy Microsoft Anti-Malware to meet the platform protection requirements. What should you do? To answer, select the appropriate options in the answer area. Note, each correct selection is worth 1 point. Correct answers. Create a custom policy definition that has effect set to. Deploy if not exists. Create a policy assignment and modify the scope. You need to configure WebApp1 to meet the data and application requirements. Which 2 actions should you perform? Each correct answer presents part of the solution. Note, each correct selection is worth 1 point. A. Upload a public certificate. B. Turn on the HTTPS-only protocol setting. C. Set the minimum TLS version protocol setting to 1.2. D. Change the pricing tier of the app service plan. E. Turn on the incoming client certificates protocol setting. Correct answers, B and E. You need to ensure that the Azure AD application registration and consent configurations meet the identity and access requirements. What should you use in the Azure portal? To answer, select the appropriate options in the answer area. Note, each correct selection is worth 1 point. Correct answers. To configure the registration settings, Azure AD User Settings. To configure the consent settings, Enterprise Applications User Settings. You need to create role 1 to meet the platform protection requirements. How should you complete the role definition of role 1? To answer, select the appropriate options in the answer area. Note, each correct selection is worth 1 point. Correct answers. Microsoft. Compute. Disks. /subscription /subscription ID /resource group /resource group ID. You need to ensure that users can access VM0. The solution must meet the platform protection requirements. What should you do? A. Move VM0 to subnet 1. B. On firewall, configure a network traffic filtering rule. C. Assign RT1 to Azure Firewall subnet. D. On firewall, configure a DNAT rule. Correct answer, D. You need to ensure that you can meet the security operations requirements. What should you do first? Turn on auto provisioning in Security Center. B. Integrate Security Center and Microsoft Cloud App Security. C. Upgrade the pricing tier of Security Center to Standard. D. Modify the Security Center workspace configuration. Correct answer, C. You need to meet the identity and access requirements for Group 1. What should you do? A. Add a membership rule to Group 1. B. Delete Group 1. Create a new group named Group 1 that has a membership type of Office 365. Add users and devices to the group. C. Modify the membership rule of Group 1. D. Change the membership type of Group 1 to assigned. Create two groups that have dynamic memberships. Add the new groups to Group 1. Correct answer, D. Topic 2 Overview. Contoso Limited is a consulting company that has a main office in Montreal and two branch offices in Seattle and New York. The company hosts its entire server infrastructure in Azure. Contoso has two Azure subscriptions named Sub 1 and Sub 2. Both subscriptions are associated to an Azure Active Directory, Azure AD, tenant named Contoso.com. Technical requirements. Contoso identifies the following technical requirements. Deploy Azure Firewall to vNetwork 1 and Sub 2. Register an application named App2 in Contoso.com. Whenever possible, use the principle of least privilege. Enable Azure AD Privileged Identity Management, PIM, for Contoso.com existing environment. Azure AD. Contoso.com contains the users shown in the following table. Contoso.com contains the security groups shown in the following table. Sub 1 contains 6 resource groups named RG1, RG2, RG3, RG4, RG5, and RG6. User 2 creates the virtual networks shown in the following table. Sub 1 contains the locks shown in the following table. Sub 1 contains the Azure policies shown in the following table. Sub 2 contains the subnets in the following table. Sub 2 contains the virtual machines shown in the following table. All virtual machines have the public IP addresses and the web server, IIS, role installed. The firewalls for each virtual machine allow ping requests and web requests. Sub 2 contains the network security groups, NSGs, shown in the following table. NSG2 has the inbound security rules shown in the following table. NSG3 has the inbound security rules shown in the following table. NSG4 has the inbound security rules shown in the following table. NSG1, NSG2, NSG3, and NSG4 have the outbound security rules shown in the following table. Contoso identifies the following technical requirements. Deploy Azure Firewall to vNetwork 1 in Sub 2. Register an application named App2 in Contoso.com. Whenever possible, use the principle of least privilege. Enable Azure AD Privileged Identity Management, PIM, for Contoso.com. You are evaluating the security of the network communication between the virtual machines in Sub 2. For each of the following statements, select Yes if the statement is true. Otherwise, select No. Answer. From VMI, you can successfully ping the public IP address of VM2, statement is no. From VMI, you can successfully ping the private IP address of VM3, statement is yes. From VMI, you can successfully ping the public IP address of VM5, statement is yes. What is the membership of Group 1 and Group 2? To answer, select the appropriate options in the answer area. Correct answers. Group 1, User 1, User 2, User 3, User 4. Group 2, only User 3. You are evaluating the effect of the application security groups on the network communication between the virtual machines in Sub 2. For each of the following statements, select yes if the statement is true. Otherwise, select no. Note, each correct selection is worth 1 point. Correct answers. From VMI, you can successfully ping the private IP address of VM4. Statement NO. From VM2, you can successfully ping the private IP address of VM4. Statement yes. From VMI, you can connect to the web server on VM4. Statement yes. You need to ensure that User 2 can implement PIM. What should you do first? A. Assign User 2 the Global Administrator role. B. Configure authentication methods for Contoso.com. C. Configure the Identity Secure Score for Contoso.com. D. Enable Multi-Factor Authentication, MFA, for User 2. Correct answer, D. You are evaluating the security of VM1, VM2, and VM3 in Sub 2. For each of the following statements, select yes if the statement is true. Otherwise, select no. Note, each correct selection is worth 1 point. Correct answers. From the Internet. You can connect to the server on VM1 by using HTTP. Statement yes. From the Internet. You can connect to the web server on VM2 by using HTTP. Statement NO. From the Internet you can connect to the web server on VM3 by using HTTP. Statement yes. You assign User 8 the owner role for RG4, RG5, and RG6. In which resource groups can User 8 create virtual networks and NSGs? To answer, select the appropriate options in the answer area. Note, each correct selection is worth 1 point. Correct answers. User 8 can create virtual networks in RG4 only. User 8 can create NSGs in RG4, RG5, and RG6. Which virtual networks in Sub 1 can User 2 modify and delete in their current state? To answer, select the appropriate options in the answer area. Note, each correct selection is worth 1 point. Correct answers. Virtual networks that User 2 can modify, VNet 4 and VNet 1 only. Virtual networks that User 2 can delete, VNet 4 only. You need to meet the technical requirements for vNetwork 1. What should you do first? A. Create a new subnet on vNetwork 1. B. Remove the NSGs from subnet 11 and subnet 13. C. Associate an NSG to subnet 12. D. Configured DDoS protection for vNetwork 1. Correct answer, A.